Hi, Lenerd. Welcome to the show.
Hi, John. It's wonderful talking to you today.
It's nice to have you on. You're in South Africa. You're the first guest I've had from South Africa. Welcome aboard.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Cape Town, Scarborough, just about an hour south of Cape Town.
Mhm.
A little village called Scarborough. So it's right here at the tip of Africa, the southern tip.
Yeah, sounds nice. Now, you have written one book. It's a memoir, and it's called Jump. But before we get to the book, and I think this is also going to segue neatly into the book as well because of what the book's about. I did a bit of reading about you. Tell us about your life and how you wrote this book.
Sure, John. Can give the shorter or the longer version. Maybe the longer version.
Longer versions is fine. I think the details are quite fascinating.
Brilliant. Yeah, so I grew up here in South Africa in the 70s and the 80s, the old South Africa, the apartheid South Africa. Born in the 60s. And then in the 80s, went to university, studied economics and law and business. And then in the 90s, went over to the UK for 5 years, and South African guy that went over there starting a business. I joined their group, came back to South Africa, and very much was in the business world. In the early 40s, became like a CEO of an insurance company. And interestingly enough, at the same time, also become multi-orgasmic as a man. And those two things are so in a way so different, And what that really means is that starting to have orgasms without ejaculating and being able to make love for a long time. And there was no one I could talk to, of course, clearly in the business world, that's not really something you raise in a boardroom.
That's right.
And also with my friends, not so much to talk about. So I just thought, wow, this is how it is. And kind of everyone does it this way. And then in 2009, I moved from from Johannesburg down to Cape Town. Johannesburg is a city in the north, and then Cape Town in the south. I was headhunted to start another direct insurance business. I was good at starting disruptive, innovative businesses that cut out the middleman, direct to consumer businesses. And as I moved down, it was like a perfect storm. I had a big inner shift happening with me where I all of a sudden started feeling, I think there's something different in life for me. This was like early 40s, mid 40s. And it didn't make any sense. It was a clear strong inner voice saying, I think you should do something different now. Now, John, this was really strange because I had been working and studying my whole life for this. Now I'm at the top of my career, and then I had this voice about, you should do something different. So I tried to distract myself with that and to be direct with a lot of sex, drugs, and jacuzzis. I was living in a beautiful beach in Cape Town, Clifton Beach. And I lived this playboy lifestyle. And I did that for 3-4 years. And then eventually in 2012, 2013, I surrendered, and I realized I have to just follow this inner calling. I didn't know what it meant, but I resigned, sold, and gave away all my possessions, bought a backpack and a one-way ticket to Lima in Peru. And then that started a 5-year journey around the world, 35 countries, 5 continents. Wow, across so many different areas. Spiritual, sexual shamanism on the one hand, and then time in India, in a little town where the Dalai Lama lives. I went to recourses. It was like walking past me a few meters, looked in his eyes, did healing crystal and sacred geometry stuff in India. So a wide range across almost all areas of life or spirituality and sexuality. Tantra, Taoism. And then came back in 2018 to South Africa and started writing. The book I started about a year or two prior, but then it became, I was just sharing my journey on blog and on Facebook around the world. But that developed, to answer your question, how that then, in terms of the book, that then developed into a book. You know, I was just sharing, and people seemed to like my writing, which I didn't thought I was necessarily a good writer, but people were saying this is beautiful expression, and I was writing about all these interesting things happening to me, you know, in a way, connecting with my masculine and feminine energies, and I was sharing that, and people found that fascinating. And out of these sharings and posts and blogs, the book basically developed. And then in 2018, I got a publisher here in South Africa, and it just happened. It just flowed, you know, to get a publisher, traditional publisher, you know.
Really? That's good.
Oh, it's not so easy, and it just flowed. And the book was then published here, and it's in all the bookstores in Southern Africa, exclusive books, and all these other big bookstores. And then also on Amazon and Audible and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And with the book then being out, people started approaching me and asking, and wow, can you share some of your learnings? And out of that, I started then sharing, you know, in the spirituality, sexuality space with people, either in workshops, online courses, one-on-one. Yeah, and that's just developing. And at the moment, quite a lot of work with men, interestingly enough, and a lot of it on the sexuality space also.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just following the breadcrumbs at the moment and seeing where it takes me step by step.
Great. Just a brief question about the book. Is in terms of the memoir, is it a memoir of those 5 years, or do you go back a little bit, some backstory of when you were growing up, and you include that as well?
Oh, John, good question. Yes, no, it's an essence about my whole life. It's the focus is, I would say, the last 10, 15 years. So it would be, I think the first scene starts there in 2009, 2010, but then there are flashbacks to let's say childhood and the time
Right.
in South Africa growing up then. You know, similar to, I think that was in the States, even more so in South Africa, you know, quite a little bit conservative, restrictive, a lot of conditioning around sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So I touch on a few things going back there. So it is the whole life, but the focus is more in the transformation.
Absolutely.
And I touch a little bit in the business space, but not so much.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't want to write a boring book, and
Mm.
it goes very much into this journey around the world and all the learnings. And then I basically speak to the reader or the listener by explaining my experiences of these learnings I'm going through. So it's not just, yeah, so learnings, it's I actually do this learning, and then what does it mean for me? You know, like 7-day residential workshops. Whew, you know, that was quite intense.
Yes, because if we're having an experience, anyone having an experience in their 40s and doing especially what you did, you tend to look back at your childhood to see if something, made sense back then. What I'm getting at is, as you're learning more about yourself, and I went through a similar experience. I didn't go to Peru, by the way. And as I'm writing about my experiences in my 50s, I'm realizing that a lot of those elements were already there, and I didn't realize it when I was growing up before. I guess that's what you're referring to.
100%. 100%, John. It's almost like a central theme through my life.
Yes.
Some of these things, this awakening, you know, and the book is a big part also about the awakening of humanity at this time on the planet. You know, the jump is like, really, it's not a jump out of the business corporate world. It's actually a jump into a higher level of consciousness. You know, it's the awakening of humanity.
Hmm.
First me individually, but then also on a collective level. So that's one of the central themes, and that's always kind of played a little bit of a role right throughout my life. And then another central theme is sexuality. You know, so there's the sexuality part. You know,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
yes, if I look right now, you know, how people with you know, in a space of you know, let's say the multi-orgasmic part. But then if I look back, then I had that period here in Cape Town where almost the total abuse of sexuality and crazy life of, you know, like sex, drugs, and threesomes, and, you know,
Sure.
like not so conscious sexuality. And then further back, I mean, I lost my virginity when I was 21 because I thought, you know, I was very scared of burning in hell, you know, for
Right.
marriage before, no, sex before marriage. So it's so fascinating. So all these facets of sexuality seems to be a central theme throughout my life.
Hmm. Well, you've already mentioned it once here, the feminine and masculine energies. And when I read briefly about what your book's about, and and on your website, you also talk about it. This fascinates me because this is a subject that's close to my heart. And back in the 80s, I started thinking about feminine energy and masculine energy and how I could see that within myself. And here you are talking about that. Can we talk about that for a little bit? Tell us about what that is exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is something that's really close to my heart, you know. In 2015, when I was at did one of these residential workshops, spiritual, sexual shamanism, 7 days, and it's really connecting your spirituality and sexuality. And it's a workshop across so many areas, but it includes sexuality, and a lot of workshops exclude it and do everything else from this level up, the heart up, but not everything else, you know. And in these workshops, on one of the days, we're having like a brother or father day, and the next day a mother and sister day. And I then just came across this fact that I mean, it's now in hindsight quite obvious, but I came across this fact that in whatever body we're born into, we still have both masculine and feminine energies within us. And we can call it yin and yang, or we can call it, you know, many terms, but I like the term masculine feminine energy. It explains it a bit clearer for me. And I just came across that, you know, that I have these other energies also in me, and I can utilize that. And so it becomes a dance of how I show up in the world. And the masculine energies, no, just to keep it very simplistic, is more that penetrative, goal-orientated energies. I want to go from here to there. I focus, I walk there, or I achieve the following, and that's that masculine energy. And then a feminine energy is more surrender, you know, it's more nurture. It's more that softness, that flow. Now, clearly, that can be present whether you're a man or a woman, in both. You know, for a woman, can be a flow and so, but if she has to operate and do something in a business space, she has to use some masculine energies. And for a man, and in business, you have to use both masculine and feminine energies. But for both genders, these energies, once you become aware of it, it becomes so beautiful because you're not just stuck in a one paradigm. You know, we as men can sometimes just be, you know, the traditionally speaking, very much in this masculinity, but not really nurturing, looking after ourselves, trusting a bit in flow and surrender. So yeah, I hope that gives a bit of a explanation.
Sure, sure. I like where you're going with that. You also mentioned somewhere I read about you, I think it must be in your book description, where by incorporating and recognizing your feminine energy, you were able to make love to a woman in a much more fruitful manner. Am I getting that right?
Oh, 100%. I really believe as a man, if you're not connected to your own inner feminine, you're not really going to read the woman and her body and her energy whilst you know making love, or when you start connecting. If you're connected with your own feminine, then you're going to be so obvious for you when is the right time
Mm.
to let's say start making love or start penetrating. You know, how long is foreplay? When do you move into those areas? You get a much better feel. You know, if you're just a
Hmm.
traditional man at the spot, you're not going to know. You know, but if
Hmm.
you're also connected to your feminine, you can actually feel that feminine in your partner, in your woman, so much better. And you can read their body signs. You can feel their energy. You can see her opening up. You know, to be able to do that, you know, it hasn't come from a book, 10-point bullets in a book. It comes from actually being connected with yourself and your own
Yeah,
feminine.
yeah. So what do you think of the term macho?
Yeah, there's macho. I'm still still a little bit okay with. The one toxic masculinity, I don't like that term so much. I prefer unhealthy or immature masculinity because I
Yeah.
think this term has been thrown around so much and it's causing so much harm, especially for the younger guys. So if macho is meant in a term of being in your masculine energy and be grounded and centered and respectful and present, then I think it's great. if it means going around and punching people around and listen, I'm in my ego and, you know, I'm the one around here, then I think it is in an immature masculine way.
Yes.
So I think it depends on the context. And I think the context is probably more that other one, the traditional one, where it's kind of sometimes men. So I think it's good for men to be masculine. So I don't think that old school macho, I think that is, you know, that is so in the past, and a lot of it has been so unhealthy and harmful.
For sure.
But I also want to see men, you know, to still be strong in their masculine and their wild man inside. I had a beautiful workshop with, I was just attending with some guys 2 weeks ago. You might have come across it, Mankind Project. I mean, I did a lot of stuff around the world, but I haven't done that yet. And I did it the other day, and it was about meeting the wild man inside. And a lot of it is also drop into your feminine energies and drop into your emotions and all of that. But it's not to lose track of the masculine. So that's what if you say macho, all of those things come up, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about heterosexuality in this book, and what you do addresses heterosexual people, I suppose.
John, I often say to the guys in my you know, so I do all these online workshops and I do work with men. So I have no I think this work is relevant for whatever your sexual orientation is, whether you're heterosexual, bisexual, gay, or whatever aspect, or even whatever gender identification. I'm a heterosexual man, so I come from a heterosexual perspective. And I often say to the guys when I talk, I say I use the heteronormative language, but just remember that it applies to everyone. So I believe being a multi-orgasmic man is as good for one, whether you making love with women or with men. I think there's benefits on it. So I think a lot of this work apply across the range. What I do say is that, you know, I can only talk from my own experience, is very much heterosexual. I can talk from that perspective, but then I can share that I think there are broader benefits for doing this work for everyone.
I totally agree. We can only speak from our perspective. I know I'm heterosexual because I remember puberty, how awkward it was. And I just like girls. So that's just the way it is. And I imagine that's the same for everybody when they discover who they are, whether they're gay, straight, bi, whatever term they want to use. So I'm glad that you explained that so well. Now, you also have an audio version of this book. How was that experience for you?
It was very interesting, John. The big decision for me was whether I was going to read it myself or get someone. And in the end, I did get someone. I got a guy with the name of Peter Noble, which is a top guy. It's actually a South African guy, but he lives in London. And he won the audio awards, I think, in 2019 for a category in audiobooks, which is like the Oscars of audiobooks. He went to New York and he got his Oscar there. So this is the guy that read my book. So he's really good. I think he did a brilliant job of it.
Yeah.
So some people say to me, "Oh, would it be nice having you read it and hearing your voice?" And I think there's a lot of value in it. And in a way, I would have loved to. And I think my voice is okay. A lot of people say my voice is okay. But, you know, I think getting that right, you know, I think you need or I would have needed a few acting classes, you know, to read a book with that emotion, that punctuation, that's not so easy, you know.
No, it isn't. Yeah. I tried doing it. It's really not easy, and I'm well equipped to be able to do that, and it is a lot of work, the editing and that. So when you did the audiobook, what was the process like? You hired the person, and then they did it, and you listened back, and did you give your feedback? I wonder what it's like to hire somebody to do that. So tell us what that process was like.
Yes, I first looked here, and then here in South Africa was a company that could do it, and then they actually take the whole process on board. They find the voice for you. You help them, and you choose a voice that you like, and then they go to the. I mean, you would know this stuff much better than me, but they then go into the recording room and editing room, and they do all of that. So you basically, for a fee, then basically pass that to them. I looked at that, but I didn't like the voices they had, didn't really speak to me. And then I found someone else on another site, and that was Peter Noble. And I thought, wow, this is great. And the fascinating thing that Peter did is he actually didn't just did the reading of the book. He also had his own little edit suite, almost like you. So he could go through it himself and took out the little gasps and stuff. So he almost did he basically did the whole production for me. And then you get given that file, and then you connect with Audible and put it on there. And I mean, he was super helpful. And then also the company is super helpful getting it for you on Audible. So it's kind of, one can do it relatively easy, but it obviously does come with
Sure.
the cost then.
Of course.
It wasn't crazy expensive, I must say. It was reasonable.
How is the book being received, and what are sales like for you?
Yes, it won the Literary Titan Silver Award in December 2019, so that was cool, getting a award for that. And then on Amazon, it hit the #2 in the category spiritual religious travel, also late 2019. And then in the bookstores in South Africa, John, the book came out in June, July, and December. COVID hit, 2019. So it, in the first few weeks was in the top 100 in the country, which I was pretty happy with. Wasn't #1, but was in the top 100. And then a few months later, COVID happened, so the bookstores in South Africa in essence closed. I actually made it available for a short period during COVID for free, actually, ebook format, just because I didn't want a book to sit still. But then when the bookstores opened again, it's been sold out. So that print run has been sold out. And so I'm actually busy. Actually, right now, this morning I was busy. I'm busy with the second edition of the book.
Okay.
Yeah, I got my rights back from the publisher. So I'm changing the little subtitle. It was Jump, an epic travel and solo adventure. But it was always going to be an epic soul and sex adventure.
Right.
I'm changing it back to that. Me and the publisher had a different view there with the bookstores, but now that I have my rights back, I'm doing that small tweak. And whilst I'm doing that, doing a reread of the book and maybe tweak one or two places, and it will then launch now in the next few months in the bookstores again as a second edition of the book.
Okay. I'm going to go back just a little bit. You talked about your journey, like physical journey. You went to Peru, you mentioned India. What other parts of the world did you go to?
So South America and Central America was a year. I also went to California from there for a few weeks, then back to South America. Then I was in Bali and Sri Lanka, which was also awesome. Australia and New Zealand. I did some of these residential trainings in there. Australia and New Zealand. Fiji. I was in Fiji for two weeks in between flying from Hawaii to Australia, from the one workshop to the other, and I had 2 weeks, and I ended up in this island in Fiji, where in the book I got attacked by this pack of wild dogs on the beach, which is super surreal. That's okay. I survived, and then 35 countries all over. And then Europe. The last year was a lot in Europe, the Czech Republic, in the UK, Ireland. I had a magical time on Ireland. I love Ireland. I had beautiful journeys there, some plant medicine journeys there, psilocybin mushroom journeys there. Czech Republic, I had San Pedro, the Wachuma. So I also did plant medicine journeys around the route. Ibiza, went to Tantra Festival in Ibiza, also a beautiful island. I wasn't in the party side of Ibiza, I was in the spiritual side, the northern side. And probably quite a few countries I forget now, but
Right.
it was 30 countries.
Sure. So you must have made a lot of friends along the way. Are some of these people still in your orbit?
Oh, for sure. I probably know more people out of South Africa than in the country at the moment. If you're in these deep workshops together, you become really deep friends and brothers and friends. That you spend this deep vulnerability time with someone and you witness them or they witness you. yeah, I made some really good friends around the world.
Yeah. And it changed your whole worldview, I bet, how you look at things. Has it altered your spiritual or political viewpoints at all?
Not political, but spiritual definitely expanded me. Yeah, so politically, I've always, so I, even though I grew up in the crazy times in this crazy country, I was always quite liberal, well, at least liberal for South Africa, you know. So
Yeah.
I was a bit anti-apartheid and very much for one man, one vote, which wasn't that popular view to have in the 80s. And I also had to go to the army, you know, a compulsory military training with that view. So that I was
Right.
always against against the system in a way from that point. So I was always been super open-minded. My parents, you know, were very open-minded. And so I grew up. So my political views haven't really changed. And I was always quite accommodating for all views. So I just really believe, you know, and I'm quite open to always listen to different views and versions. On the spirituality stuff, definitely, I definitely expanded in a big way. I became so much more aware of of our journey here. I became so much aware of the ego, and I became so much more aware of consciousness and awareness. Um, and I became really passionate about and excited about where we are moving as a species on this planet.
Hmm.
And I know there are crazy things happening and wars happening all over the place, but there's also a mass awakening of people happening and a lot of people dropping into their hearts. And I think it's just these two energies
Yeah.
balancing.
Yeah, for sure.
I really believe there's in our lifetimes. I think even in our lifetimes, and you and I are now on that end of the spectrum, but in
Hmm.
our lifetimes, I think we're going to still see fascinating, massive, fascinating things happening on this planet in
I
terms
agree.
of consciousness and spirituality.
Yeah, for sure. So what are your plans now to do with your life? Are you thinking about doing more travel, or have you settled down physically?
I'm June. I'm going to Switzerland for 2-3 weeks. I'm
Hmm.
doing a workshop there, and I'm presenting at the Switzerland Tantra Festival. Um, and last year I was there for four months in Europe, but I think this year I'm only going to go for a few weeks. Um, yeah, and then I love my village was probably like yours. It's a very small village. So I sit here, I can see the sea over there, and can walk and jump into the beach in a cold water, like
Hmm.
12 degrees, pretty cold. And up in the mountain is just here. So it's a beautiful place to be based. So I don't see a lot of traveling, John. I don't see myself going, wow, 35
Right,
countries
right.
anymore. Feel I've kind of done that. But I'm always open to if there's stuff happening somewhere to go and join and share and give and also receive. Um, so yeah, I'm in an interesting place at the moment where I'm really following the breadcrumbs and I'm working with people, you know, like mentorship with well, I would say young guys, some young guys, some older guys also.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm just sharing my gifts, but in the same process, you know, also learning so much, you know. They say the person that learns the most in every classroom is the teacher, you know.
Hmm.
So
That's right.
uh,
Yeah.
so I'm in this journey at the moment and just seeing where it's taking me.
Yeah.
I still want to make the book a movie. That's still something there.
Oh, yeah.
I think just,
I
that would be
I think
lovely. I
it could
think it would
work.
be really.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I've seen movies
Yeah.
similar to that, and they're always a fascination. I love stories about travel and a journey. Someone's on a journey, physical and or emotional. But I guess you've traded your backpack for a suitcase now.
Last year, I went and had to take a suitcase. That's right. Actually,
Right.
when I
Okay.
was there, I was wondering, I wonder, why am I having a suitcase, not a backpack? Am I getting old now?
Probably has those wheels on it. You can pull it, right?
Yes, I had one of those that you pulled, and I was actually, oh man, I should have taken because I still have my backpack. I should have brought my backpack. So I don't know. See what I do next month.
Okay. Well, you've mentioned quite a bit here about workshops and mentoring and all that stuff. And on your website, you talk about that. Let's go take a visit of your website.
It's called lenerdlouw.com. And yeah, so it's super simple and easy to navigate. The homepage is really just the story and some background. And then there are sections of the website. The one part is free resources with a lot of articles and videos so like this video that we're doing now, I'll put that on there. And there's also a lot of podcasts and free articles I've written and videos. So it's a lot of material for people. You can also buy my book, Jump, the ebook and the audiobook on the website, on the book page. Then there's also the online courses section, where there's some online courses and where the 3-month mentorship lies. And then the 21-day sexual mastery online course that you can do as a group, or you can do it one-on-one with me, or we can do it as a self-study.
Right.
Yeah.
So how is this new business of yours? Is it a success? Is it thriving, or how is it working?
John, it's like at the beginning stages of it, I think. It's not a massive business. It's not like big groups of people on the online courses, which I'm actually quite happy with. It was like we had like 20 guys on the last 21-day online course, which, so pretty happy with that.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm happy where it's going. And what I like is it's all about the transformation, and I'm just driven to bring more transformation to people's lives. And if the transformation is there, then the business will grow. I think the two are so linked.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, I'd like to have you give a pitch for your book. I'm going to put you full frame, and then you could look directly into the camera and tell people how could they benefit from ordering your book.
Jump is not a difficult read. It starts with a very flowing journey or story in Cape Town. The first 3 months, it's very much about that. The first 3 chapters, it's very much about the world in Cape Town. So it gives the whole spectrum of my life, from this crazy life and this business life to the spiritual growth. And in the book, there are so many pointers. It's my story, but in the book are pointers that can point people in the right direction of where they can, where things resonate, where they can learn something from. So yeah, I think firstly it's easy and fun to read, and secondly it's a lot of learnings in the book. It's basically taking my learnings of 5 years and condensing it with a lot of pointers of where people could find further expansion and further learning.
Well, it sounds fascinating because, like I said, I like books about journeys, both physical and emotional and spiritual. So it's a really interesting subject, and I'm really glad to have had you as a guest on my show. And look, if you write anything else, or if you update this book and you want to talk about it some more, you're welcome back anytime.
Awesome, John. Thanks. I'll keep that in mind for the second edition. And thanks for your time. I love that chat.
All right. Well, you take care of yourself, Lenerd.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you for watching. If you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then please consider hitting that like button and leaving a comment. You could also subscribe and ring that bell, because I release 2 episodes per week, one on Wednesdays and one on Saturdays. And if you are an author, I would love to hear from you. Until such time, keep on writing and be kind to one another.